So this is Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle, and there are lots of YouTube videos on how to play this already. So what I wanted to do is highlight some of the difficulties that you might have depending on your experience. There are different ways that you can play this, and I just want to show you also some of the nuances in this piece. So here we go. The first chord that you're going to hold down is a D minor chord. Now this is in the key of D minor for the first part. So what happens is you have this descending bass line. So the best thing for you to do is to just hold down the D minor chord the normal way with these three fingers. Now first of all, let me just explain. You could play this with a pick. So the right hand would be so this is going to be a little bit more technical for if you're not so advanced with your picking. I prefer, actually, since these days I'm playing mostly fingerstyle, I find this most easier to play with the fingers. So I'm going to show you the fingerstyle. What you have here is, you could consider this to be in 6/8 time or 3/4 time. Let's think about it as 6/8. Now if you're playing 6 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can divide 6 into either 2 or into 3. So if you divided it into 2, for example, you go 1, 2. So this is not how this song goes. So you'll notice there that I'm accenting 2 notes, which is the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But the way we want to do it is divide this into 3. So you're playing groups of 2 notes. So it would go like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to slightly accent the first 1, 2, 3, and the fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's good to be conscious of that when you're playing this kind of a rhythms. Okay, now that's established, let's take a look at what's happening in the left hand. So we've got this D minor chord, and you're going to have to be pretty agile with this little pinky finger. You might find this awkward depending on your experience again. So what's advisable is if you can get your hand, I'm always preaching this, that you should have the back of your hand and your arm fairly straight. So if you're doing this or something, doing something awkward, so you want to try to keep your hand on top of the fretboard, so that the distance between those 2 fingers, when you do this stretch, if your hand is like this, it's going to be much more difficult to get that little finger over there to reach that D flat note right there. When you're pressing this down, it's all about having the right amount of tension. You don't have too much tension in your hand. So if you can hold down those notes without putting any extra stress and try to keep this fairly loose. You've got to try and attempt to keep this fairly relaxed, and so that you can stretch over. So the distance, if you look at the distance there, it's actually not that far. For any 2 fingers should be able to do that. Now between the 3rd finger and the 4th finger might be a little bit more difficult. That's the least natural movement for between the 3rd and the 4th finger. So if you can just imagine, put that finger there and put that finger there. Now you could try and do that, and then try and put in the other 2 fingers on top, just to get your hand in a position where you can play this chord like that. And without getting yourself tied in knots, try to keep the neck in a good position so that you can be able to reach over like that. Now the next chord after that, we've got this descending bass line. You could switch fingers and do this. But there's an alternate way, which is to move that pinky down. And the reason I like this is, I'll show you. Is because you can keep that finger on there, and there's an advantage to that. Let me show you now. Because I'm going to take that finger off and go. which means I still have that third finger on the second string, 3rd fret. Then I can go like this. So the reason you want to do that is, after you've done this, it's best to go up this sequence of 10th notes, which is, those are tenths. Because when you get to here, you're going to switch over and do these sixths. If you end up with that second finger over there, that leaves the 3rd and the 4th finger to be able to go onto the 8th fret. And then you can slide down with the 3rd finger. And that leaves you this first finger open to be able to put down a bar. Then you can do that little trill right there. Alright, so again, let me just run through this slowly and see if I can walk through this together with you so that you can understand. Alright, so we're starting off with the D minor chord. Get your hand in a good position for that. I like to just walk down. Now when you get to here, here's where you can take this finger off, so you go, lift that finger off and you got a chance to put it over there. And this is the next chord here, which is, whoops. Now we're going down to one more note, which is, now it's an advantage again from here to put the second finger on there. So, by the way, here's an opportunity if you want to do this little slidey thing. Jim didn't do this, but if you just want to add that little bit of something, you could do that. So now when you go from there, so that's where you can put the 3rd and the 4th finger on here. Then put the bar down and you got that hammer on there. Just one more thing here is there's some areas in this where you can add some dynamics nicely. So you got, let's just go through this again and I'll try and talk you through this. Now here's right at the very beginning, you can kind of start off soft. Get a little bit loud, a little bit of a crescendo there. You got some kind of a release there, so you're kind of building up here. You can get kind of soft there. Now here's where you can add another little crescendo, and then you got this quiet part. And that kind of sets you up for the verse, which is coming next. Now here's an alternative way to play this if you really are having so much difficulty with reaching over with that little finger over there. These notes right here are actually the same notes that you find up there, and you've got this D minor chord in that position. Now you don't actually need to have a bar chord for this. I mean, you can play it as a bar chord, but you just need one finger on that 5th string right there. And if you can do this stretch, then that might be easier, and that might be a way that you can play this piece just to get started with this. So again, I guess it goes like this. Switch to that one. So I don't know if you find that easier, but it's an alternative way that I thought of. I was trying to think of ways that you could get by without having to do this awkward stretch. So that's something to consider. But then again, you're going to have to practice that. You have to practice that change, which I would have to practice too. But something to think about. So I'll do another video on the verse and also the major part, and we'll take a look at that in detail. So hopefully that was useful for you. If you like this, hit the like button, and as I always say, always try to stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I'm talking.